how can you try to put a feeling into, for example, 2 lines, 2 verses, you know? So it's this compressed quality
the density.
of poetry, density, that's it.
I see poems as elemental particles, you know, condensing the mass of the universe in a few things.
Exactly. And I think they're more powerful if they don't blow up. You know, if they are there moment before the blowing, you know? Because I think poetry is much more powerful if it threatens, you know?
Fragmenty dyskursu miłosnego. Nakryłem ją, gdy przeglądała pismo pornograficzne. Wskazując palcem na zdjęcie nagiego mężczyzny, zapytałem, co to? Ce n'est pas un pi, podpowiedziała, biorąc mnie w nawias swoich nóg. A dziś wróciłem wcześniej z pracy i w korytarzu wpadłem na nagiego mężczyznę. Zapytałem, co to, wskazując na niego, a raczej na jego męskość ze świeżym śladem szminki. To jest fajka. Usłyszałem odpowiedź kobiety, z którą wciąż sypiam, bo nie potrafię udowodnić jej zdrady.
Well, I came up with the idea of a workshop on poetry and translation. I'm interested in the whole way that difference can be made to tell. How can translation be a subversive and creative activity? The bottom line in translation is not equivalence or fidelity, because languages are never equivalent, therefore they cannot be faithful. But this is not a problem. It's exciting to negotiate across spaces in between and be creative about it. I mean, I think one of the misconceptions is that the original is totally sacrosanct. But in fact, there's no such thing as an original in itself.
Man poezija, visų pirma, pati poezija yra niekieno žemė, nes tai yra žemė iš esmės niekam nepriklausanti, bet pavyzdžiui, kai tu į ją patenki, tu gali ten būti dievas, demiurgas, tu gali kurti, tai yra, iš esmės poezija yra vaizduotės žemė, ar ne? Jinai niekam nepriklauso, jos negalima atimti iš tavęs, iš sakykime, skaitytojo, poeto ir panašiai. Dėl to jinai yra niekieno žemė tokia ta prasme.
To me, the whole thing is exploring spaces in between. And this is what's happening on this island. I mean, we are also in a process of translation and transformation and negotiation of meaning. And every time someone walks across this space that we have called no man's land, there is something going on in the way that we translate this meaning. And we have different official histories that contest each other, that are always in negotiation. But even these official histories may adjust themselves according to the historical moment. So, you know, it's something dynamic, it's something that doesn't stand still.
Poetry is in itself always a kind of exile, but in the case of translation, it is as if you have a double or a triple level, you know, of being foreign, so that sense of estrangeness, I think, feeling and not feeling in your own land, maybe it can also be applied to poetry.
Poems that are organic and they are alive, and I see it as growing up. They are moving to, they are continuing their lives, and they live in another language, and okay, maybe they lose some music or some rhythms, but they gain other things that I cannot give them in my own language. I believe that as a poet, I see myself as a translator, actually, as an interpreter also.
Hurma. Ben ağacım, bir hurma, Mesarya mezarlığında. Gölgemde gömülü uygarlıkların kemikleri köklerim. 40 kıvırcık kölenin kürek çektiği gemilerle getirildik Mısır'dan. Küpeli bir Helendi vaftiz babam. Sünnetçim, devşirme bir Osmanlı berber. Oğlancı. Baharları Afrodit'in, kışları Zenon'un yanına çırak verildim. Belki farkına varmadınız, modeli bendim Lüzünyan mimarların. Venedikli tüccarlardan miras bu tatlı dillilik. Zevk düşkünlüğü, Roma, Bizans. İngilizlerin eseri, sergilediğim bölünmüş kişilik sendromları. Zaman zaman insan sanışım kendimi. Yalandıkça yalana sarılan. Paranoyalar bayrak kumaşından dikilen deli gömleği. Made in Greece, made in Turkey. Savaş görüyorum suya bakınca.
If literature has any function, is to preserve memories, and I think that's how I feel about it. You know, I mean, if there is a barbed wire, there is because there is a memory there. Because if there is separation, it's because people remember how it was before there was separation, before there was segregation. Because if they didn't, there was no need to keep a border.
Most of the people, they pass from here and they don't even realize that behind this wall is Victoria Street. A street that used to be one of the most important streets of the city. Back then, it was actually in the middle of the conflict. Now, of course, it's in the middle of what we call the dead zone.
Ήμουν στην οδός Βικτωρίας και γίνηκαν οι πρώτες φασαρίες και έφυγαν όλοι. Και το φυλάκιο δαμέφυγα και έμπηκα εγώ μέσα. Με την τουρτούρα και έκλεπα. Όλη νύχτα, όλη μέρα. Έμεινα δαμέ. Πολλούς Τούρκους είχαν που είχαμε σχέσεις καλές ποτέ. Ήταν όλοι φίλοι. Αλλά όταν ανταγώσαν οι φασαρίες, ποιον ο καθένας γύρευκε να σώσει ο δωμάρι.
Είδες το χάρτη εκεί πάνω που είναι η Κύπρος με την Αφρική, να? Ήταν πριν να μπει στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση.
Η χαρουπιά στο Google. Το δωμάτιο που είχε κομμάτιο πάτωμα ήταν το πιο ζεστό. Παρακολουθούσε τη θεία να το ραντίζει και να το σκουπίζει. Κάθε βράδυ περιδιάβαζε το σπίτι και τον κήπο. Θυμόταν ακόμα και τις τρύπες από τα καρφιά στον τοίχο. Έμπαινε σε όλα τα σπίτια στο Βασίλη, μετρούσε τα βήματα μέχρι την Κανακαριά, τριγύριζε στα γύρω χωριά. Όταν είδε στο Google Earth τη χαρουπιά, όπου άφηνε το τράκτορ 12χρονος και έτρεχε πρώτα στο θάμνο με τα σκίνα και μετά στη θάλασσα για να μην κάψει τα πόδια του, έκλαψε πικρά.
Shy of Paradise.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly Castaway because shy is it's worse in a
yeah,
way, you know.
You're shy to go in.
Yeah.
You're reluctant to go in.
Yeah. Hovering shy of paradise.
Hovering is when you move.
That I
like
know
the
all the words.
colibri. You know the word.
I know all the words.
Okay.
I don't understand the image.
It means the way a hummingbird, colibri, the way it moves, or a helicopter. When you go through the air like this, sort of a. It's, you understand the movement, right?
The whole poem is about a land in between, a limbo, you know. There is not verb in Catalan to say this kind of hummingbird flying, you know.
I asked, is it a swift movement? Because helicopter is not swift, right?
Yeah,
it's a little bumpy.
Yeah.
So that's why I put pairar. Pairar is like this, you know.
Yeah, okay. Then I could use this. Yeah.
The musicality is very beautiful in Portuguese, you know. And timidez de paraíso, that is in shyness, literally of paradise, you know. So that ambiguity is kept.
If there is an ambiguity on the original, then it has to be an ambiguity on the final
so,
text.
Yeah.
This is the the game there. You must be also
Find peace. As swiftly as when the summer takes you, you move in an overflow of surf, hovering shy of paradise. You stay within a sky that moves with rumbling cumuli. Touch it with your fingertip tendrils, smelling of Sirac jettison. You will hear a voice that roars propitiously with the waves, secreting a sticky lineage from a stone where few rivers flow, and then glimpse at your kith, far and away now, Damascene plums on rooftop terraces, skins charred shielding their flesh of heated gold, taste their blood, thick like grape molasses. This is the first time and the last time. For a moment and then another, you are rocked back and forth with gentle ferocity by an earth that turns while history closes in. It's the arrhythmia in the heart.
Yes, but it's not, but it doesn't need to be the heart. Syncope means something that's not...
It's, the rhythm is broken.
Yes, yes.
Aksak,
In broken
okay.
rhythms, in broken rhythms.
You mean you are talking about heart?
No, I'm not. In Portuguese, syncope does not mean necessarily...
In broken rhythms.
I have to ask that as well, because redoubt is a literal translation.
So it's not a redoubt, it's a
O
redoubt.
redoubt da şeydir, yani suyu durdurmak için konulan mesela
They
çekilen
thought that
set,
redoubt
duvar
was
ne olabilir onu düşünün
double-
bir. Ya da bir kalenin
double
etrafını çevreleyen
From
bend.
How do you build? You build a place to hold water?
It's around you.
Hudud can be either to hold water, it can be what you put around the castle, for example.
Είτε βάλουμε τάφο, είτε βάλουμε τείχος, θα μας δείξει ακριβώς το ίδιο αποτέλεσμα, δηλαδή ότι κάτι κλείνεις μέσα.
There's something in the seed in the original that sparks off the life to keep multiplying in its multiplicity of forms, coming to a decision where it's an awareness of the multiplicity of possibilities and the fact that we're actually making choices. Our own choices are influenced by our own hidden desires or the histories that have conditioned us that we don't even know.
Terra de ninguém. This is a made expression in Portuguese.
Okay.
It means the space between the borders. If into Greek appeared as something as the dead zone, and if the dead zone means terra de ninguém, that is no man's land. This part where everything can happen and nothing can happen, and continue to remind you of violation of rights, and it's continuously reminding you of the relations of power, you know.
Yeah,
So I
domination.
think domination, yeah, domination. And my poem is also about that, you know, seen from a woman's point of view. It's a, you know, in a way, it's a poem written by a woman too, you know. Terra de ninguém. Digo espaço, ou uma receita qualquer que seja em vez. Um espaço a sério, a terra de ninguém, que não me chega ao conquistado à custa de silêncios, armários e cebolas perturbantes. A síncopes de mim construí um reduto, mas não chega. Nele definham borboletas e sonhos, e as mesmas cebolas em vício se repetem. Digo espaço, ou receita qualquer em vez de mim.
When I was doing my army service on the island of Limnos, I was called one night to guard a post for 3 hours. And I was all alone in the middle of the vastness there. And there was a very thick fog that night. Couldn't see anything. I could only see the shape of a tree. And that was it.
Το δέντρο. Ένα δέντρο δεν έχει πολλά να σου πει. Άλλωστε τι ωφελεί αρκεί που σε βλέπει. Στέκεται εκεί στην ερημιά βουβό, νεκρό πολλές φορές, ακίνητο, κρατώντας την ανάσα του την προσοχή να μη σου αποσπάσει. Και σένα η πράξη σου, ολοένα και πιο θρασής, σαθρές και απροκάλυπτες, τα λόγια σου αέρας στις ρίζες και τα φυλλώματά του κατακάθονται. Ένα δέντρο να απαντήσει δεν μπορεί. Άλλωστε τι ωφελεί αρκεί που σε βλέπει.
Ser sol és trist, però estàs content, car ningú et veu i tu ho veus tot. I el llit tan gros, i el raig de sol que entra el primer tan sol al sol, però tan potent, tan sol com tu, resolt com tu que treus els peus sota el llençol, petges al sol que encara és fred, que n'ets de breu com un hereu, un xic talós, prens el teu tros de cafè amb llet i bades molt. Tens tot el temps per a tu sol. Bonjour, garçon, li dius al gos. Good morning, sir, li dius al got. No et cal de res, no plens ni un moc, és trist ser sol. Però estàs content.
I think that every poet, every good poet, it's also a little bit a destroyer. It's not only a person who sing about the beauty of the world, but is a hooligan also. I think it's much more difficult to write a poem about the happiness. when we are happy, we don't need to share with our happiness with someone else. But yeah, and yeah, so maybe I will not write about this this bird singing only about these ruins.
Can say that my poetry is against the God, against its institutions, against many things, has anarchist tendencies. Doesn't matter what subject I write, it's got to be provocative. Okay. Yeah. Poetry is always against the border, or always with poetry try to drill the border or go beyond the border. Poetry loves contradictions and paradoxes. Poetry, yes. So, Lefkoşa. Tarafında kalmalarla kandırdın beni Lefkoşa. Bölünmüş arka avlularında, huşulu hurmalar altında, bozuk dililerle alıştım esrara. Ev diye Ermeni mezarlığında yatıp kalktım. Ta kendisini, Isabel de Bellini'yi gördüm rüyamda. Kapalı kerhanenden atılmış, somya ve elden düşme 28'lik bir bisiklet iskeletiyle değiş tokuş ettim gururumu. Yasemin kokusu duysa da yaşlılar, ben sadece militarist bir ter ve yara kokusu duydum sokaklarında. Kokmuş derelerine, evde kalmış kızlarından daha beyaz bir balıkçıl kondursam ve boyunlu konduramadım. Adımı ağzında fazla tuttun, tükür artık Lefkoşa.
Tal vez es una oportunidad también, una situación política como esta, como la que hemos vivido nosotros durante toda la dictadura de Franco y el esfuerzo que se ha hecho para recuperar la lengua desde la traducción, desde la creación, pues ha sido un esfuerzo que ha permitido también abrir nuevas puertas, porque la lengua es un instrumento del pensamiento. Entonces, bueno, toda situación difícil pienso que es una oportunidad en realidad, ¿no? Sí. Cataluña sí se siente como una nación que está dentro de otra nación. Quizá en vez de pensar en términos de límites, de fronteras, quizá es mejor pensar en términos de estar unidos unas cosas dentro de otras, ¿no?
O sea, la relación entre poesía y lugar sí que es muy importante. Y el momento histórico influye también, ¿no? Puedes jugar creativamente para abrir nuevas maneras de ver la identidad y la cultura dentro del poema. En Chipre se han cambiado muchos los nombres con todos los conflictos. También, o sea, se ocupa un lugar y se cambia el nombre.
Aquí los niños deben pensar, ¿por qué todo tiene 3 nombres? ¿No?
Sí.
Batų deginimas. Įkūręs laužą prisimenu, sūnus matuojasi mano batus, tarsi matuotųsi mane patį. Batai, jie patalpa, kojų namai, sūnaus palaidūno prieglauda, juose gyvena nueitas laikas. Kiekvieną sykį, kai švenčiame naujus batus, tikime, jog eisime toliau, nei jie žada. Sūnus avi mano batus, nežinau, dar negaliu suprasti, ar dalis manęs sugrįžo į batų namus, ar dalis jau išėjo ir kuri dalis būtų geresnė, ir kiek man skirta batų, kiek man skirta namų, kuriuose negyvensiu. Žiūriu į liepsną, su jie iškeliauja mirusio tėvo batai, kuriuose jis gyvens per amžius.
Lyrical poetry, it's also about silences. The meanings are between the words, and they are in the relation of the words, both between, and therefore they separate them, and through. It's what goes through the words, yes.
This communication between author and reader, it happens, in fact, out of the poem and out of the language, using words to move the reader out of the words and cross this linguistic borders. So we need empathy to understand other cultures, but we need also empathy to better understand ourselves.
Translation is about an inside-outside relationship, but the idea is that the inside-outside get mixed up with each other. There's always an overlap, and I think this dialogue
challenges where that boundary is between self and other. It's the ability to see yourself as the other, or to bring the other into yourself that's probably already inside you, but you're blinded to it. I think that's really it.
Almas vencidas, noites perdidas, formas bizarras. Namoraria, cantam rufias, choram guitarras. Amor, ciúme, cinzas e lume, dor e pecado. Tudo isto existe, tudo isto é triste, tudo isto é fado. De nada.